Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. This one's kind of like an emergency video because we just got some news from the Hangzhou Spark camp that I wanted to talk about because I think it's interesting and it's something that I feel like we probably will have resolved here very shortly, potentially, and so I just want to get my thoughts out on it before what would be Wednesday. I already kind of have been planning on doing a news recap video on Wednesday because a lot of stuff has happened, but I just want to get this out. The normal recap video is still coming out later on. It's 12:18 a.m. for me right now. Comes out later today. But this one is just me talking about the news that the Hangzhou Spark have released Takoyaki. You know I'm a big NYXL fan. You know I follow the NYXL very, very closely. There's a lot of things going on that I want to talk about with the NYXL. But the Hangzhou Spark have announced they are releasing Takoyaki. There's a video, but the tweet, which I will put a link to it in the description, but also just put a picture of what they said up on the screen. As you can see, they said, "Today we part ways with tank player Lee Takoyaki Younghyun as he enters free agency. Takoyaki joined us at the start of this season. We thank him for what he has done with the Spark, and we wish him a bright future ahead. Thank you, Takoyaki." So that is what they say. There's a little minute-long video just talking or showing kind of stuff he did in Contenders, some of the preseason matches, and then the one appearance that he had at the beginning of this season when they played the Philadelphia Fusion. To my knowledge, Takoyaki has not been able to join the team at all. He had issues with kind of getting to China, so he hasn't been with the team this whole time. So I look at this release. It's kind of an interesting one. I can't say I'm surprised. Gushue's had a really good year. You're not going to replace Gushue, really. It doesn't really make sense to have a player like Takoyaki sitting around, especially when main tanks are such an interesting position. There's not that many great ones around. The Spark could probably trade Takoyaki if they really wanted to, but I'm sure they tried and couldn't because teams know, like, if they're trying to trade him, they can probably just wait it out, most likely, to get him. Because realistically, it's kind of weird. There's not that many teams that really need a main tank, especially in the APAC region, which is where you would expect Takoyaki to stay, because it would be very difficult for a team in North America to sign a Korean main tank. Like, the amount of work you have to get him here, you might not even get him in time, so it's kind of a waste. Look at, say, Pine, for example, who has been signed to Dallas Fuel now for over a month and still isn't with the team. Like, who knows when Pine will actually get to Dallas and be with the rest of this team. So it doesn't really make sense for a team in NA to kind of go after Takoyaki. And when you look at the teams in APAC, there's only two teams realistically that you could see potentially going after Takoyaki. One is the Guangzhou Charge, though they already have two main tanks on their roster, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. The other one that does make a lot of sense is the NYXL, which is a big part of why I wanted to make this emergency video. Because Takoyaki, I think, could be a really interesting signing for New York, and I think New York 100%, like, I am serious when I say this, the NYXL, like, need to bring Takoyaki in for at least a trial. At least, like, a trial, a 30-day contract, whatever, right? I had a whole Twitter thread about this. As soon as I saw this happen, I was like, oh, what? Takoyaki could be a huge, huge blessing for this NYXL team, which has had issues with their tank line all season. There's a report that came out yesterday from Halo of Thoughts saying that the NYXL are going after Kalios, who is, I believe, still with O2 Blast or was recently with O2 Blast, played alongside of Yakpung. That's the report, that they were trying to bring him in as a way to help Yakpung. So even though Bianca is not necessarily the problem, they want someone who kind of has experience. And I think that's still a decent signing because, you know, we know Yakpung is kind of the main shot caller of the NYXL roster. At least that's what Halo Thoughts is saying. I don't know where he is getting this information from. I have genuinely no idea. That's just what he's saying. I assume it's true. New York seems to like to have that structure for the team. So it's interesting to see this kind of report that they're bringing him in to kind of hopefully make Yakpung more comfortable. But you now have the opportunity to sign a main tank who is sitting in Korea, is not on a team anymore, right? He got released into free agency, so he's available to sign. He played with Flora on Team Diamond. The most consistent piece of this New York team so far this season. The player's been the best so far this season. Flora. Takoyaki and Flora played together for like a year. They've played with each other on Meta Athena and Team Diamond from like February to November of 2020, right? So these are two players who have played with each other in the past for a pretty good amount of time. So they're familiar with each other. It's someone you can integrate into the team relatively easily, I think. I mean, I look at this and I think this is a player dropped on a silver platter. And when you have someone like Rush, who is probably going to win Coach of the Year, he's at least the front runner right now, I would say, to win Coach of the Year. When you have Rush, back when Takoyaki got signed, saying that he thinks Takoyaki will be the best main tank in the Overwatch League, that is a huge amount of praise for a rookie player who had not seen any time in the Overwatch League. Now, obviously, he's seen very little. They wanted to play him early on. That was pretty clear. I think some of that was because of the fact that he's not with the team. But, I mean, if I'm New York, you cannot pass up on this opportunity to bring Takoyaki in, potentially sign him to a contract, and have him potentially be there to help solve some of these issues this team has had at main tank all season long. I think this is huge news. As me, someone who's an NYXL fan, like I just wanted to talk about this. I've been talking about main tanks for the past week. I made a whole video talking about main tanks. There's not many options that this stuff like this happens. Like, main tanks are very hard to come across. So I'm screaming at the NYXL right now. I'm screaming at Nugget. I'm screaming at the NYXL organization. Don't mess this up. At the very least, trial Takoyaki. There's a chance they look at Takoyaki and they don't think Takoyaki is very good. They think that Takoyaki is actually worse than Yakpung. It's very realistic. It could happen. 100% possible thing that could happen. I'm not saying New York needs to sign Takoyaki. What I'm saying is they better look at him. They better be right now, because obviously it's significantly later in Korea right now. Let's see, what time is it in Korea? Haha. It's currently 1 p.m. So if the NYXL aren't like calling Takoyaki up right now and bringing him in at least to trial him, that is a huge missed opportunity that they need to jump on. That's all I really want to say about this, though. I think this is a huge bit of news. I wanted to talk about it because I think it's something very interesting. It could have impacts on my favorite team, and so I just wanted to talk about it because I think it's one of those storylines that's been developing all season. It's been talked about all season. We've been talking about New York's tank line for so long. It feels like beating a dead horse at this point in time, but maybe, just maybe, this could be the change to that. So we'll see what happens. That's all for me. Later on today, don't worry, you're going to get your normal video. So until then, bye-bye.